Uncle Harry, Aunt Sadie, Cousin Irving, oh my God. You know, she had this infatuation still with death, and she's got this lovely porcelain doll with angina. Just so that she can have a sense of maybe where this might be going, you know, in the future. So you can imagine, you know, growing up in an environment like that, you have to ask yourself, I mean, the best thing about my childhood was that it was over. Literally, you know, that it was over, it was done, it was finished. But you have to ask yourself, how do you explain that? How do I explain the drama? How do I explain the stored memories, the dreadful stored memories in my unconscious mind? Now, some of you are Unity students, so you know, if you've read any Joel Goldsmith or Dr. Murphy or Emmett Fox, you know about the unconscious mind. Now, the unconscious mind, that's a very interesting concept. Now, the unconscious mind, by definition, which you can't know you have because it's unconscious, following this, rules over 90% of our conscious awareness, but you're not consciously aware of it because it's all unconscious. That's like having deja vu and amnesia at the same time. Like, oh. Where do you go with information like that? So, me personally, getting back to this idea of spiritual beings living in physical bodies, I think we pay lip service to being spiritual beings living in physical bodies. And what I mean by that is that maybe for a couple of minutes in the morning, ooh, I'm a spiritual being living in a physical body, or during the day we sort of take pride in it, you know, like, oh yes, I'm a spiritual being living in a physical body. And then the rest of the day, for the 18 plus hours that we're awake, we're a wreck. Have you checked into yourself lately? Talk about being human, like 100% human, like we are as human as they come. You know, it's like, oh my God, what's for dinner? Oh, I broke my fingernail. Oh, I locked my keys in the car. Your mother-in-law is really making me crazy. Oh, the kids are making me crazy. Oh, the grandkids are making me crazy. Oh, what's to eat? Have you seen the price of bagels? Look what's going on in the war. So where does that leave us as spiritual beings? Let me tell you a little bit of a story. You know, we identify in our hearts with who we are, but we demonstrate, my sense is, and I'm speaking for myself here, our humanness of many, many hours during the course of the day. So the idea is this. Imagine, if you will, that we're spiritual beings, just for a moment, just that working hypothesis here, and that we're in between incarnations. And we are flying around with no body. Oh! And we're flying around. $186,000 miles a second, because that's the speed of light. Stopping off once in a while for something to eat or drink, which we don't need because we're breatharians. And then finally, we come back, playing a little solitaire on our computer for what seems to be an eternity, because it probably is. And then you get a little notice. You've got karma, mail. And it's from God. And she says, listen. To the goddess, she says, listen, you've got a few things you need to understand and work out, and I've got like a new age to birth down here on the earth. We need a little bit of help, so you need to go down there and do some incarnating, some serious incarnating. I need some lights down there. You have a few things to realize about yourself so that you and I are like. And after that, we're in good shape. So, this is what you need to do. Is this on? I can't feel it. This is what we need to do. So you go off then. So then what we do is we choose our parents, we choose where we're going to live, how we're going to live, we choose our astrology, we choose everything. So we're thinking, okay, let's see, I know what I'll do. I'll choose the two most dysfunctional people I can possibly imagine. One of whom might leave, the other whom might be a drunk, and I will show up in their life as their baby, and they will be my parents. And it's like, what? So we do. I'm back. And then it starts. We go about trying to get love from the people around us. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work, and we don't always feel how it is that we would like to feel. And we're traipsing around, and we're being ourselves, and we're dancing, and we're singing, and we're told, no, don't do that, stop, no, bad, wrong, stupid, unworthy, unlovable, incapable, give it up. And so every time we hear that, a part of us dies. And a part of us closes off a little bit. And then this gem that we were carrying around with us, this jewel, this Christ consciousness living in our bodies, it goes, oh, if this is the way it's going, we're starting to get the inkling that maybe we're not actually going to get love from outside of ourselves. But darned if we don't keep trying. So what we do is we modify the jewel, we modify the gem, and we adopt all these default compensating survival strategies and ways of being. Well, let's see. I'll be happy when I'm not. Maybe that'll get me something. I'll be sad when I'm not. Maybe that'll get me something. I'll be angry, and maybe that'll get me something. I'll be aloof. That might work. And we develop all these ways of being, and every time we develop a way of being in direct relation and opposition to our inability to receive and have and feel the love that we want from other people, every time we do that, a part of us dies, and we build up this false sense of ourself. You guys following me? And after a while, every time that happens, we put a brick in this wall. Every time we feel something and we can't express it, oh, you want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about. So we don't say anything, and we stuff it, and we have unresolved feelings, we have unresolved experiences, things that happen to us that shouldn't happen to any child. And we got no one to talk to about it. So what do? We stuff it. We stuff it, and we get behind the wall. And there we are, locked behind this wall, safe, so it seems. And then, when we manage to come out, we behave in ways that are a little bit bizarre. Because we're either trying to protect ourselves, or to what? To get love. So we develop this identity, this false identity, this false sense of self. Let's call it ego. Let's call it personality. Let's call it our compensating self. Let's call it our calculating self. Let's call it our shadow. And every time we have experiences, oh, by the way, and we take that jewel and we hide that. We hide that away. For a day when it is what? To come out. Yeah, when it's a day when it's safe to come out. So we stash that away, and we just decide that we're going to move forward with the best we can with this sense of self, this identity, this false identity, and every time something happens that we aren't able to express ourselves and we can't control it, we take that experience and we shove it in the bag that we carry over our shoulder. And this bag is our shadow bag. And it goes on for miles by the time we're 20. And anytime something happens and we can't express and we can't resolve, deal with it. There's no one to deal with it. Who are you going to talk to about it? In the bag. Zip it up. And we walk. And we carry the bag. Oh, once in a while the bag will open up and something will rear its head. And we go, oh no, back in. And now, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, on the dysfunctional scale, I probably emerged from my childhood like a 6 or a 7. Some people have better, some people have worse. But now, at 7, 8, 9, 10, we emerge from our childhood, and guess what? The jewel is well hidden. The gem, the Christ within us, in order to protect us, is well hidden, and the personality that we're exhibiting with all our adapted, dysfunctional, compensating ways of being and thinking, that personality goes into our unconscious mind. And we know about that because we just talked about it. And then we think that that compensating strategy, that ego, that shadow, that's us. And we identify with that. And then that becomes us. And then years go by, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and we wonder why we get sick from having stuffed ourselves into this little module. Our shadow, our creative power, lodged in different places of our body, trying desperately to get out. Oh, and it'll get out one way or another, because disease is spiritual homeopathy. Whatever's going on inside of our bodies is telling us this is your creative power trying to get out. And so what do? We get diabetes, or we get asthma, or we get Crohn's, or we get migraines, or we get whatever it is that we get. And then we medicate ourselves to suppress the symptoms, when in fact the disease is the cure. Homeopathy means you take whatever it is that you have, and it helps your body to build up an immunity to it. So how many years then do we go on in our lives in this state of identifying ourselves with a part of us that isn't actually who we are? And then we say, oh, no, I'm a spiritual being living in a physical body. But what I'd like to suggest for our consideration today is that a day comes, like now, when we can't continue to use our spirituality to try and fix our humanness. Does everyone have a sense of what I mean by that? Using our spirituality to try and fix our humanness, because you know what? You can't perfect the ego. It's flawed by nature. You can't perfect the personality. It's flawed by nature. It came into existence in direct opposition to our spirit in order to protect our spirit, and then we claimed it as ourself. So there's only one thing left to do. You can't use your spirituality to perfect your humanness. The only thing for us to do is to vacate our humanness, is to vacate our ego, is to evacuate the mortal concept of ourself and connect in to the peace and the coming wave of love that is you. That there is no other thing outside of us except what we put there in order to turn us inward, to show us that we in fact are the Christ identity, living and expressing and experiencing creation through this body. We have a biomechanical spacesuit. Do this for me, if you will. Just as you're sitting here, you don't have to do anything special. Just look down at your body. Look down at your body and say to yourself, oh, I'm a spirit living in my head, and this is my spacesuit. Just in your mind's eye, go. I'm a spirit living in my head, and this is my spacesuit. Look down at your whole body, and the fact is that this is your spacesuit. Hindus say the spirit lives in the brain. We incarnate, it splits. Half of it lives in the brain, and the other part lives in the base of the spine, which is called the kundalini. And we use this as our command center to look down. We got eyes, we got the mouth, we got everything you need right there. Why go anywhere? And we use it to commandeer and to move this vehicle through space, but we're not this vehicle. So really, the only thing left to do at this point, as far as I can see, is to re-identify with who we are in truth. So we have meditation, we have spiritual practice, we have sadhana. Do you get that the identity that we claim ourselves to be was created in direct opposition to our inability to receive love and our compensating strategies to try and get it and protect ourselves? And that conglomerate of person is who we think